Hi, welcome to Mercurius Being Astro Update. I am Amy and I am here today. It seems like it's been a long time because it kind of has. I recorded the last couple videos beforehand, oh wow, it was quite a bit early, maybe 10 days, 10 and then, yeah, anyway, 10 to 12 days before the events happened, which I don't usually work that far ahead. So it was kind of cool experiencing everything then. And I'm glad I posted it as I did because I just think it was kind of interesting to feel into the energies as they came up. But then, since it has been so long, it was really weird to prep and be ready for this week's events. And as you can tell, I've got some sinus stuff going on. So I actually did all the writing for this yesterday, but just didn't feel up to doing it. So today, when I'm going to upload this, will actually be, it is the first day of spring here in the Northern Hemisphere and the first day of fall down in the Southern Hemisphere. And I remember last fall, there's some people I follow from Australia on social media, and they were so happy when they had their first day of spring. And I have to admit, there's a little bit of me that was like, you know, because I live in Minnesota and that heralds in, 17 months of snow. But then I allowed myself to release that and be happy for the people in the Southern Hemisphere and their experience of spring and summer. And now we get to move into spring and summer, although if you would look outside of my window at the many feet of snow, you would not think today is the first day of spring. So there's something about that energy of it not, spring is coming, spring is here, but it's not, doesn't look like it, right? It's not here yet, but things are starting. So again, just forgive my stuffy nose, and if I have to pause it all, that's what's going on. But besides that, I feel quite good. So I'm gonna power on. So today, March 20th, 2023 at 4:24 p.m. Central Time. So we're not there yet. Hopefully I'll get this up before that. The sun moves into the sign of Aries. And this is the chart. And again, the orientation, where the planets are, is different where you're at. But as you can see, there's a nice chunk of planets from Jupiter in Aries, Chiron, Mercury, the Sun, and then we have Neptune and the Moon in Pisces. And of course, the new moon in Aries is tomorrow, so the moon's going to be joining the sun quite soon into this Aries stellium. So the spring and the fall equinoxes are points of balance. It's an equal amount of day and night. We're shifting from, as I said, up here in the north where we're less sunlight. We're moving into the full moon of the summer, the high sun, the big sun. And so we have the spring and the fall moments where it's equal. So it's kind of a pausing point. It's a great time of balance. Pluto is So it's a lot about Pluto and Mars here today too. So Pluto is the leading edge of this configuration. So it's cutting into the open space, so it has a lot of strength. Pluto is moving into Aquarius on the 23rd, and I will come back and do another video about that. And also Mars moving into Cancer. I just thought for time's sake, I wouldn't put it all into one. So we have the Aries stellium, we have Pluto in Capricorn, soon to be changing signs into Aquarius. And then we have Mars on the other edge, the trailing edge of the bowl pattern in Gemini, soon to be changing into Cancer. And why is that significant? Because Mars has been in Gemini because of its retrograde. It's been in Gemini for like 7 months. So it's been in this one part of your chart, one part of the heavens for 7 months. So you've had a lot of time to review. Also, Mars is the ruler of Aries. So we have that strong energy. So Mars and Pluto both are associated with the navel chakra, but Mars is transiting in the throat chakra in Gemini, and Pluto is transiting, it has been transiting since 2008, Capricorn, and now it's going to be moving into Aquarius, and both of those are at the root chakra. So the Sun, Jupiter, Chiron, Mercury are all at the navel chakra, a lot of will, a lot of energy of going forward, of individuating that Aries is. But at the same time, I mean, there's just a lot of energy this week. We've got that Pluto changing signs, we've got Mars changing signs, and Mars is squaring the Sun, and Mars is really active in all the charts. I left the other charts over there, but we'll cover the new moon too. So Mars is squaring the Sun for today's Aries ingress, the first day of spring, and then tomorrow's new moon. Mars will be squaring both the Sun and the moon and just holding that energy. So with Pluto, it has a nice sextile to the Sun as the Sun moves into Aries. So power becoming available. Okay, the systems are coming online. Okay, if you've had ideas and plans and things that you've thought of, it is a really good time to get it started. That's the other reason I wanted to come on, and I was really a little disappointed yesterday when I didn't feel well, but I thought, well, also, I'm learning a few things, but I don't like to push myself. So if I'm not going to feel well, I'm not going to come on, because that's just, you know, what does that say? Oh, push yourself when you don't feel good. Yeah, that's super great. We all need to hear that message, right? But when I was feeling better, I'm like, well, I really had these plans and I was really excited for this week, because I feel like this week in these videos, it's just really something new is coming to life. It's being planted, as every new moon is, but Aries is really the archetype of that. So Pluto is sextiling as a nice aspect to the Sun, power becoming available, systems coming online. Mercury is conjunct the Sun. It's 3 degrees away. So I kind of got the image that Mercury is a little too close to be objective. So Mercury in Aries, you may need to detach a little bit and reflect a little bit before stating or communicating your point. I also got the idea that, you know, just knowing when to speak and to not speak, which can be a little hard when Mercury is in Aries, and especially when it is close to the Sun, can be kind of this energy of blurting things out. And then Mars in Gemini, which is ruled by Mercury, Mercury in Aries, which is ruled by Mars. There's a lot of, you know, a lot of motion with that, but just like stepping back a little bit and just realizing the power of speech and the power of speaking effectively, and being clear and direct. So just take a little moment to like I said, the objectivity might not be there, so just step back a little bit. All right, so that was that part about the communication. Uranus has a semi-square, like a half square to the Sun. So there's still this energy of upsets, disruptions, and volatility. It's not super strong, but it's kind of underlying. And then we've got the Moon at 18 degrees Pisces, Neptune at 25 degrees Pisces, and then the Sun. So there's kind of a, you know, 7-degree space and a 5-degree space. So we have this influx of the Neptunian Piscean energy, this vision and this flow, still backing up the Sun as it moves into Aries. But again, just 0 degrees Aries, and the new moon is tomorrow, and I'll cover that chart. So there's a lot about vision that's still coming in, like maybe there's a lack of clarity. Like I said, the power is becoming available and things are coming online. All systems are starting to come online, but maybe the vision is still a little wide or big or dreamy. But there is this sense that all that Piscean water and the Neptune and the moon are kind of watering the seeds that will sprout, and that there could be a lot of access to your imagination as the Aries season begins. I got the image or the song Morning Mood from the Peer Gynt suite by Grieg, and I'll put a linked to that. When you hear it, you'll know you've heard it. It's like a dawning new day, the dawning season, like the little seedling is just starting to peak. And again, here, however, it's going to have to, like, those tulips have a lot of work to do, right? Like we've got a lot of snow. So it's going to be a while before that earthly energy and the energy of Mars to move those seedlings and sprouts forward. So that's where we are, still building with that. So again, Mars is in Gemini, and it's just the last few days. It'll change signs on the 25th, excuse me, ruler of Aries. So we're really wrapping things up before it starts anew in Cancer. And Cancer squares Aries, so there's gonna be some volatility when we move into that. So again, really reviewing what you've said, what you want to say, how you communicate, things that have happened over the last 7 months before we get involved in Cancer, which is going to be more about feeling and maybe the more immediacy of Mars in the sign that of hot water, of feeling it a little bit more. So it could be overly sensitive as Mars moves into Cancer. So if there are things you need to wrap up or review about the last 7 months, just take the time to do that. And if you don't get the chance before Mars moves into Cancer, you'll have 6 weeks when it's in Cancer and to work on that. So aspects to Mars, because it's the ruler of Aries, it quintiles Jupiter and Chiron, so those are both in Aries. So there's a lot of energy for beliefs and healing and being made whole available. And then it trines Saturn, it squares Neptune, in conjuncts Pluto, and has a sextile to the North Node. So what does that mean? So we're still speaking to the idea of Mars issues of boundaries. That would be that square to Neptune, so the boundaries being a little fuzzy. I'm kind of thinking this whole situation is a little part of that, but kind of moving past that and taking risks, which would be more Jupiterian, being courageous, overcoming fear, going into that Chiron energy, stepping into your courageousness, being in charge of oneself and one's agency, and just standing up for what you value, that North Node in Taurus. So the sign of Taurus, your heart center, the sign of values, that in conjunct to Pluto, in Capricorn, this idea which we'll be carrying over when I talk about the Pluto in Aquarius, the individual authority, your own authority, and the responsibility might be or is or could be at a little stress point with the outward authority. Adjustments to being effective in order to execute or communicate that whole Gemini thing. Your individuality will or an individual will, and just taking the steps to own and be responsible, be in charge of yourself. And moving into the Pluto Aquarius ingress later this week, we'll touch about this, but remember, if you don't take the steps to be in charge of yourself, someone else gladly will. So get your Mars on, but be effective with it. Okay, so tomorrow is the new moon in Aries, and again, this forward energy, all planets are direct until April 21st. So we've since January, all planets have been moving forward, and now we're in Aries season, ruled by Mars. It's like speeding up, and it's a super new moon. Okay, so this is what it's gonna look like. We still have Pluto at the leading edge, we still have Mars at the trailing edge. Of course, it's only tomorrow. But now we've got an even bigger party going on in Aries. We've got the Sun and the Moon and Mercury and Chiron and Jupiter, all in Aries, all still being inspired by that Neptune and Pisces. And then we have Venus and the North Node conjuncting in Taurus. So at a super moon, the moon is closer to the Earth. There are higher tides, more intense pull and gravitational pull, more intense energy can affect sleep, and it can affect other cycles in your bodies. It just adds a little more intensity to this lunation. Full speed ahead is what I wrote. that all those planets being direct, and then the Aries and the Mars definitely love the feeling of speed. So all of those planets, again, the Sun, the Moon, Mercury, Jupiter, Chiron in Aries, there's a lot about expansion and possibilities with that Jupiter, healing and making whole with that Chiron, communicating, Mercury, feeling passionate and driven and shining with the Sun, and operating through the lens of I amness. Okay, this individuating energy. So in Pisces, we were all melded into the ocean of existence. And now in Aries, we're taking our steps from the all into oneness, while still knowing you're a part of everything, but knowing that, hey, I'm myself, and how am I going to do this whole life thing? So I wrote, moving out of the potential sloggy dreaming Pisces and the allness into the now, I take all that inspiration and big vision energy of Pisces, and I step out into my own expression of life. I don't know, that was a bit redundant. Still a part of the whole, again, but just experiencing yourself as an individual part, and how that feels, and how one operates. And as you're operating in this I amness, fear might come up, but the overriding energy of new experiences and the excitement of that overtakes the fear. Curiosity overtakes the fear. That sense of what will happen next. I gotta find out. I'm afraid, but I gotta find out. Again, Mars is squaring now the Sun and the Moon. So challenges kind of right out the gate as we start the season, kind of getting a pushback perhaps with your attempts to assert yourself or individuate. Handle this with as much tact as you can, or tactical thinking. I got the image of being more of a surgeon-like than a butcher. With that Mars, because Mars rules knives and it rules surgery and it rules butchers. Uranus, it has now the semi-square to the Sun and the Moon, still with that little bit of upsets and disruptions and volatility. Neptune is conjunct the Sun and the Moon, so it's carrying again that Piscean vision forward and still nourishing these dreams and visions and imagination. Pluto now sextiles both the Sun and the Moon, and it's really a nod of approval from the Lord of the underworld, the god of transformation and transmutation. Make the changes, set the course, be alive within yourself. Slough off the old and give birth to the new, or begin preparing to give birth to the new, as Pluto is the god of death and rebirth. The aspects to Mars are the same or similar to the ingress, the quintile to Jupiter and Chiron, opportunity to expand and just go. Trine to Saturn, the structure is there, the support is there to Mars, which again rules Aries. Boundaries still being established within this. And then that Pluto sense of authority, responsibility, use of power, and personal will. Venus in Taurus conjuncting the North Node in Taurus, the North Node being our evolutionary path forward. It's a lot about values, okay? Venus rules Taurus, so very at home here. It's in our heart center physically, microcosmically. Self-worth issues are heightened. And also the sense of, what do you really enjoy? Enjoyment, what do you really love to do? Venus again, Taurus rules the heart center along with Libra. It's a lot about nature and music and beauty and comfort and your resources. So the sense of life is meant to be enjoyed, softening into life. It doesn't have to be so difficult, was another thing that came to me. Progressing through beauty and heart-centered connections. the sense of calming down in Taurus, the sense of stabilizing growth in the body. Mars in Aries is a lot, again, about assertiveness and risk-taking and courage. But Venus in Taurus and the North Node in Taurus is kind of this sense of breathing into it, calming down, recovering. So this kind of maybe recovery period, this pause that's necessary before the growth and expansion, all of the energy that will be needed for that part of the process. And then kind of, filtering this stuff through, one of my channels is Archangel Metatron. So some of these things, when I say kind of pop in or channel through or came to me, I also mean that. I also have Kriya yoga guides, but this image came to me then, that of just the seedling, that morning, like I said, the morning mood from pure Gynt, the seedling, then this time-lapse photography of just really blossoming into a flower. So just know that even again, if it's not apparent outside, these changes are occurring inside, and that they are going to be coming into blossom, but this is a very crucial time to establish strength in self, boundaries in self, careful speech, considering things, pausing a bit, even as there is this go-ahead energy. So I'm going to kind of stop there. I'll come back in another couple days for the next video on Uranus, Pluto moving into Aquarius, which is ruled by Uranus, and then Mars moving into Cancer. But I just would like to let this settle for a little bit, because there's really going to be a lot of energy going forward over the next 20 years, really, as Pluto is in Aquarius, of the individual versus the collective, and the individual rights within the collective, and balancing that. So just spend some time thinking about Aries and Mars and boundaries and assertiveness and agency, and just really feeling it in your body. And I know came to me in the next video about the Mars and Cancer, it was just like a lot about like standing up tall and just like holding yourself straight. I'm going to close with a couple other thoughts here. So Aries is ruled, or Aries, the tarot associated with Aries is the Emperor. And this is from Kim Krans, the Wild Unknown Tarot Guidebook. So the Emperor, and I just love these two images, so you'll see both. So this is the image and the association for Aries. Protection, stability, the father. The Emperor is the father. He's the tarot's perfect counterpart to the Empress. He represents the side of you that's protective, decisive, and truly stable. He brings clarity of mind, and this in turn leads to actions or decisions. Sometimes this card is literal and points to a paternal relationship in your life. At other times, it suggests reconnecting with a part of you that stands strong and tall and knows just what to do. With help from the sun, the Emperor can see for miles and miles. So it's about having a really big vision, but standing tall and being that stable, centered in self person. Okay, so it's Aries. Interestingly, the tarot card for Mars is the Tower. So I just think it's kind of interesting, the potential of, standing tall, right? Establishing yourself, individuating yourself. But then Mars, represented by the Tower, and so kind of always this little bit of energy shakeup that's associated with it. The Tower is unexpected upheaval. When the Tower card appears, it's time to brace yourself for change. The well-rooted tree that's been growing strong for decades is crashing down around you. Your world may feel as though it's literally falling apart, and you didn't see it coming. Even though this phase is painful and confusing, it will be over soon. You'll look back and feel grateful things have changed course. You might even see it as a personal breakthrough in the end. All right, so there we have it. Happy spring. Have a beautiful day wherever you are, or fall if you were in the Southern Hemisphere. And I'll be back in a couple days with another video. Take care.